Alright, it's time for the Oni H-Bot review, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to be reviewing the Oni today. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to have a special secret unboxing, so stay tuned for that. I think it's something that 3D printing enthusiasts are going to really be interested in. So, of course, this here's the Oni. I don't know if you can hear it. It's actually a little bit louder than what your standard Oni is going to be. It's because I have this little upgrade I did on the fan. It's a little bit louder. It's a high flow fan, but it's not something that you're necessarily going to have to add to it. I like having some extra cooling on things. So we'll start going over some of the positive sides of this. One of the nice things, it's got an LCD screen that you can kind of see down here that allows you to set all of your settings and everything without having it hooked up to a printer. To a computer, sorry. You can just go in there, set your temperatures and everything like that, control your speed. You can speed it up while it's printing, slow it down if you want to. Also attached to that LCD, it's got an SD card reader, so that, again, you don't have to have the computer connected. You just put your G-code files on that SD card and shove the SD card in there, and you can just print straight from this. So that allows you to have, if you have multiple printers, you can just have a bunch of SD cards loaded with files, pop them all in, set them printing. You don't have to have the computer connected to it. One of the other nice things is all of the motors here are back here. The extruder motor is kind of hidden back in there. None of it is on the parts that move, so that means that you can actually print things pretty fast on this. And when you're printing that fast, you don't have to worry about all that extra weight on the gantry that's moving. It's got the Bowden extrusion. The hot end part, this little hot end carriage here, is all really compact and light. You can actually move this thing pretty fast and get really good accuracy on your prints. I've actually got something printed out here right now. It's just a little single wall cylinder, but all the layers align really nicely. That's one of the things I love about this machine, is that you can get it going pretty quick, and you still get all the layer alignment just really nice and tight. It actually can make the prints look like you're printing at a smaller layer height than you really are, just because everything's aligned so well that it's hard to see the layers in there. And when you do go to a really low layer height, it just makes it all look really nice. And the printer can handle down to 40 microns is the lowest that it can go. It can actually go lower than that, but 40 microns is a single step of the Z motor. So basically, when you're doing your layers, you want to do it in multiples of 40 microns, so like 0.04 millimeters, 0.08 millimeters, 0.12 millimeters, and that just allows you to have a single step on the Z motor for that, so you're not doing the micro stepping. It makes things a little bit more accurate on your Z layer height. If you want to do the micro stepping, you can go a lot lower. I haven't tested it at lower. I've tested it at 40 microns, and it prints out pretty nicely at 40 microns. You just have to go a little bit slower. I think when I was testing it at 40 microns, I was running at about 60 millimeters per second. When I do 80 microns, I run it at 80 millimeters per second, and it works just fine. Everything's beautiful coming out of that. So, like I said, that's one of the things I love about this machine, is that you can run it even at that lower height, at that low of a layer height, really fast, and everything just looks beautiful. Leveling the bed is really easy on here. There's just some thumb screws here. It generally holds level pretty well. And when you need to re-level it, you just twist those. You don't have to break out the Allen wrench or anything. It's really easy to do. Frame's really sturdy. It's all bolted together. These printed plastic bits actually have nothing to do with how the frame is held together. They're just there for some of the idlers and the motors and stuff. But, you know, I had a friend who dropped theirs down a flight of stairs, and then we're able to pick it up and go printing with it again. I think the weakest part on this is this bed here. You know, this is made out of acrylic, and then it's got the wood on top and then the glass. But the acrylic can break if you're a little too rough with it. Really, all you got to do with that is just, when your print finishes, take it off of the glass before you go to take the glass off of the bed, I should say, before you go to take the print off. And then that pretty much solves that problem. So you're not trying to, you know, force that down on there. As long as you do that, you should be fine. And yeah, I just turned it off there. I'm going to let this cool off, pull this print off for you, show you that here in a minute. As far as maintenance of the machine goes, occasionally you've got to oil the rods. That's not a big deal. You're going to need to do that on just about every machine. Then, I don't know, after several thousand hours of printing, I have another one. I've had to do a little bit of maintenance on it, but that's after several thousand hours of printing. Just recently, I've had that one for over a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I had to replace the GT2 belt and a couple of the bearings because they had worn down. That was 2,000 to 5,000 hours worth of printing, somewhere in there. Before I had to do that, it's really easy. You just undo a few bolts on here, loosen a few on there, and this front pops out and the gantry slides out, and then you can just replace those bearings and the belts or whatever, assemble everything back together, and you're good to go. It was really easy to do, and a really cheap maintenance thing. Those bearings and belts aren't all that bad, especially if that's after 3,000 hours of printing that you're doing it. When you do the bearings, you might have to replace this little plastic block here. You can always just print one of those yourself out of ABS, so that's not a huge deal in replacing that. I did it when I replaced mine just because I noticed that the bottom had gotten a little bit loose after all that time. I could have gone without doing that and it would have been fine. I just like to make sure everything's tight. With that, the bearings just pop into place. There's a couple of the nuts, the M3 nuts that you got to pop in there, and you're done. You know, I think altogether, when I replaced the belts, the bearings, and that block, it took me like 15 minutes to do all of that work and get it all back together and printing again. So that's really nice on the maintenance of this machine, as everything comes together, comes apart and back together really fast and easy. So if you do need to replace something, you're going to do it, and it's really a long amount of time before you do have to replace something. The other things I've had to replace on it, I had to replace one of these fans on here before. You know, this is not the standard fan, so when I have to replace the non-standard fans, I don't really count that. I had to replace the fan that it came with, though. You know, I don't know how much can detract from the Oni itself for that. These are the one that I had before was a fan that came with the hexagon hot end, which is not unique to the Oni. I've noticed those fans are a little bit inconsistent, and I've actually talked to the owner of Oni Technologies. He said that they're looking at replacements for that because they've seen that those aren't exactly consistent. They're trying to get that taken care of. So that'll bring up some of the downsides on the machine that I've noticed. Is that there's no cooling fan as far as if you're trying to cool off your part while it's printing. There's nothing on here to do that. So when you're printing in PLA, you have some overhangs or some bridging or something that you want cooling on, you're going to have to figure out a way to do that on your own, since this doesn't have anything like that when you get it. I think that's something they're working on, but just know if you get one right now, there's not going to be any cooling fan on that. The other one is the consistency of this fan here with the hexagon. It is not always, they don't always work well enough to cool down this hexagon. So I've noticed some heat creep on that, which can be an issue when you're printing with PLA, cause the nozzle to jam up a little bit. You know, if you're noticing that, you might have to replace this 25mm fan. If you don't notice that, then it's not a big issue. One of the other things, which is just something with an all-metal hot end, is that metal has a little bit extra friction when it comes to PLA. So before you go replacing that, you might end up checking to see if just oiling the PLA works. And actually, the way that I've done it on mine, because I was having some issues with this one with PLA, was I just seasoned the nozzle. And what I mean by that is I took some PLA, I took off this Bowden extruder, this tube here, and took some PLA, heated up the nozzle. I put some 3-in-1 oil on it, which right here, this 3-in-1 oil. Put a little bit of that on the PLA, just put it on a rag and wipe the PLA off with it. I didn't put a lot on it. And just ran that oil PLA through the nozzle for a little bit, just to kind of season it up. And after I did that, I had no more problems with printing in PLA on this. So, I mean, it's a little bit of an extra step, but, you know, once you know what to do on that, it's really easy to take care of. You know, if the heat creep's an issue, that's a little bit more of a pain, because you got to replace the fan there. But I think a lot of times when I've thought it was the fan, it might have just been that I needed to get some oil and oil it down. Because now that I've done that, this was PLA that I printed here, prints fine. Every once in a while I've got to go back and re-oil it, but it's not a huge deal as far as that goes. And those have been really the only two major things that I've seen that need improvement on this printer. Is it needs some cooling, and occasionally this little fan here for that hot end needs to be better. But I think that they're working on that. I know they're also working on a 24-volt upgrade on this so that it heats up a lot faster. It does pretty well on heating up on its own right now. If you're doing PLA, it'll heat up to the bed will heat up to temperature in no time. You know, it'll take a minute or two. If you're doing ABS, it takes, you know, maybe 5 to 10 minutes depending on your ambient temperatures to heat up the bed to a little over 100 degrees. So there's a little bit of a wait there. If they go to 24 volt, it'll be done in no time. But other than just it being a little bit faster to heat up, that's the only huge thing with going to 24 volt. I know it'll be a little bit easier on the motors, but you don't really notice that right now when you're printing, because you can go pretty fast with this thing, no problem at all. Like I said, my standard print speed is 100 millimeters per second. I've sat there and cranked it up on the LCD to 150 or 200% when I was in a rush, and it's just sat there and gone around printing just fine. So it's really nice. It's a nice printer. The price isn't that bad. I believe assembled right now it's $1,400. I'm gonna have to look that up to be sure. But you can actually click on the link below in the description, and that's going to take you over to the Oni website where you can take a look at it. You can look at the prices and everything that they got for sale on their store, and you know, pick out what you want. And let's see if this is cooled down enough for me to pop that off. There we go. So got this part here. It had a little bit of a stringer when the nozzle moved up. Let's see if we can get it where you can see it. There up close. That's 0.2 millimeter layer height there. So you can see these layers are really nicely aligned. It does a great job there. There's a little bit of a indentation in this print. It's a little bit off on these first few layers here. But that's just because I had it too hot for the speed it was moving. Once I cooled it down to where it should be, you can see that the layers came out just really nice. This print quality on here is fantastic. And you get pretty much every print coming out like that. This isn't even in the best filament that I've worked with before, and still get a really nice print off of this. You know, the better your filament that you've got, the better the print that you're going to see coming off on it. So yeah, overall I think that if I had to rate this out of 10, I'd say that it probably ranks a good 9.5 out of 10 for me. Just an amazing printer. I haven't worked with any so far that I would say really surpass it. There's a lot that come close or that I see on par with it. I've worked with the MakerBots, the Ultimakers, you know, the Mendels, the printer bots, and all of those each had their own unique little issues and stuff. I think the Ultimaker comes pretty close to being exactly the same with this machine. If they take care of the cooling issues with it, both for making this fan a little bit better and having a cooling fan off on the side there so that it can cool the PLA when you're printing overhangs and stuff, that would knock it right over the top. You know, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Is if they add those things, and I would call it probably one of the best printers on the market right now. It's up there competing with the big dogs. You know, it's definitely better than the MakerBots right now with their Gen 5 hardware, but that's not a hard one to beat. It's right up there with Ultimaker, you know, and those type of machines. As far as aesthetically goes, you might not like the look of it because it is just this framework here. However, you can go ahead and get a case for it. They have those made so that it will cover up all the sides and everything with a really nice laser cut case. If that kind of look is important to you, I actually have one for my machines. I just don't have it on right now. It was one that I did myself, but it was based off of their design. I was actually able to get a hold of the files and modify them a little bit for my own personal use. You know, if you have access to the laser cutter and you ask really nicely, you might be able to do the same, or you can just pay a little bit extra and get that case done on there, and then they look really nice with the case on them. I personally like kind of the framework look that it has here, but you might want something a little bit more enclosed, and you know, having a little bit more enclosed also helps kind of keep the heat in. But from what I found, having it open like this makes it a little bit easier if you need to reach in some direction and mess with something on the part or something while you're trying to work on things. It's just really nice to have that area just kind of reach in there and grab things. Yeah, so like I said, really good printer. I would recommend it to anybody, and the link is in the description for where to get it. And now I think it's time to move on to this special unboxing that I had for you. Okay, so it's time for this special unboxing, and this is from a company called Proto Paradigm. It was actually a Kickstarter that I backed, and this is one of the Kickstarter rewards. I've been looking forward to it for a while here, and I finally got the fulfillment out for the level of backer I was at. Got this thank you for your support thing here, and what this is it's a new kind of filament that they're producing. It is supposed to be a magnetic printer filament. So comes all packaged like that, and it's just a nice, looks like a nice black filament. It's PLA, it's infused with iron. You can see it there. It's just a black filament. It's all packaged in there, desiccant, everything, just kind of standard filament packaging. And it is supposed to be magnetic. And what they say on this is that it's not magnetic enough that ceramic magnet's going to do really well. I have a magnet out of an old hard drive here, just to kind of see how well it sticks to the filament, if I can get it on there. And it feels like it's got a pretty good pull. You know, let's see. It's not enough where I can just set that on there like that. Well, there we go. So, see if I can do that again here. Get it in a position where it'll grab onto the filament there. Show it to you. It's just a nice magnetic filament. Has a little bit of grab there with the neodymium magnet. It's not super strong grab on it, but that is pretty cool. So could make some things like some nice magnetic latches or something on with this filament. It's just a nice, and that's actually not, the magnet's not coming in contact with the filament when it's holding on there. It's still a little bit away. So let's see if I just take this, break a little piece of it off like that, and put that back in there. We'll see what it does. So I've just got a little strand of it there. See how well it attracts this magnet. So there we go. A nice printable plastic filament that is magnetic, sticks right on there. So I think that I'm going to probably do print with this, come back with a video of kind of what that looks like. Yeah, I like it. So look forward to that. Again, it's their Proto Flux Magnetic from Proto Paradigm. If you're interested in looking it up, right now I think they're just working on filling Kickstarter backer rewards, but you know, here soon they should have it available for people just to purchase. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to it. If you did, if you didn't, I don't care. Just like it, comment, and subscribe. You know, let me know what you think. Let me know what kind of videos you'd like to see in the future. And have a good day.